welcome to The Working Songwriter, the show where today's best songwriters come to talk shop. I'm your host, Joe Pug. Each episode here, we host a distinguished guest, and we ask them to go deep on their inspiration, on their process, and on the general ups and downs of making a life in music. So, whether you're a grizzled veteran, desperately pulling up a Wikipedia page in a bar to prove that you did in fact co-write a Matchbox 20 single, or else a scrappy upstart perceiving slights with the very best of them, this is your show. Because ultimately, it is what every writer seeks most, an ironclad excuse to put off actually writing. Hey everybody, thanks again for joining us. It has been an eventful month since I last spoke to you. To address the elephant in the room, I have nothing at the moment to say about the election of Donald Trump. My thoughts on him are well documented, so I'll spare you the recap. And anything further that I have to say about his election, I'll just be weaving into an album that I'm writing presently, hopefully for release next year. In our community this last month, we bid a fond and grateful farewell to Leon Russell, Sharon Jones, and the mighty Leonard Cohen. Also in our community this month, we have a member in need. Savannah Welch, member of the Austin band The Trishas, daughter of songwriter Kevin Welch and sister of songwriter Dustin Welch, suffered a catastrophic accident this last month that required amputation of one of her legs. You can pitch in to help her and her family by visiting GoFundMe and finding the page Love for Savannah Welch, set up by Jenny Finlay. Even if you don't know her personally, even if you only have $5 to give, please stop by and do so. This is our community, and we have to look after one another. So yeah, it's been a long month, and frankly, 2017 can't come soon enough. If you'd like to hear some of my songs live coming up, here's where you can do so. December 1st in St. Paul, Minnesota at the Turf Club. December 2nd in Evanston, Illinois at Space for an early and late show. December 3rd in Indianapolis at the Hi-Fi. January 13th in Portland at the Doug Fir Lounge. January 14th in Vancouver at the Cobalt Hotel. January 15th in Seattle at the Tractor Tavern. February 16th in Philadelphia at the Boot and Saddle, and then the 17th in New York City at City Winery. Finally, if you enjoy this podcast, if you'd like to help it remain a viable endeavor for me, there are two quick, painless, entirely free things that you can do to help out. Both of these things you can do from your smartphone, and in fact, you could finish doing both of them before the interview starts, just while I'm talking to you right now. You could knock them both out if you so chose. First, you can rate the show within your podcast app. You simply open the app, click the search button, type in The Working Songwriter, click on the reviews button, and then just click on Write a Review. That would help me out a bunch. The second thing that you can do, also from your phone, is just share the episode with like-minded friends who you think might dig it. That would help a ton. The simple math is either of those things will help me much more than they will be a pain in the ass for you. So be on the right side of history here, guys. Help me out. I'm going to end the harassment right there. I surely hope that you enjoy this month's episode. Born in 1984 in Greensboro, North Carolina, and raised in the small adjoining town of Reedsville, our guest this month is B.J. Barham, the writer and the force of nature behind the country rock outfit American Aquarium. After leaving college at North Carolina State, BJ founded the band in 2006, using the opening lyric from Wilco's iconic "I'm Trying to Break Your Heart" as a moniker. The band has maintained a live schedule over the last decade that could stand toe-to-toe with any comer, logging 250 to 300 shows annually. Of their schedule, the now sober journeyman once quipped to American songwriter, "I'm not bragging that I'm made for driving long distances, not sleeping, and abusing substances. That's nothing to be proud of, but it's what we're all good at." In 2012, after years of work with too little to show for it, the band hired a then relatively unknown Jason Isbell to produce what was slated to be their farewell record. Their choice of a producer proved to be auspicious, and the record breathed new wind into their sails. They continued on, and their latest album, Wolves, along with a solo release named Rockingham, are BJ's most successful works to date. Elmore Magazine has compared his work to Mellencamp and Springsteen. Vice has deemed his songwriting country storytelling at its finest. No Depression has written that his songs are always personal and genuine, teeming with the dark realism of lost hope. This last month, I had shows in Greensboro, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia, with a day off in between, and it just so happened that between those cities in Charlotte, on my day off, BJ and his band were playing at the Visiolite Theater. He was kind enough to stop by beforehand to tell me about his journey. Dude, I want you to take me back to Reidsville, North Carolina in the early 90s and kind of describe in your own words where you come from.
Reidsville is a tiny tobacco farming town in the Piedmont region of North Carolina, which is basically right in the middle of the state. Super agricultural, small town, narrow-minded. A couple thousand people live there.
Okay.
And, tobacco was king. Up until the mid-90s, we had this place called the American Tobacco Company. And you couldn't live in Reidsville without somebody in your family working for the American Tobacco Company. It was, our claim to fame was making Lucky Strike cigarettes and Pall Mall cigarettes.
I like both of them.
Yeah, so that's a Reidsville thing.
Yeah.
Those are made in Reidsville, North Carolina, and really small town, blue collar. Mm-hmm. Today would be considered Trump country.
Right.
It's the disenfranchised, forgotten about America.
Does that mean that industry does not exist there anymore?
In the mid-'90s, the American Tobacco Company left, and so did the tobacco industry from Reidsville. So It's rough. It's people who are still trying to farm, but they also have to work, shitty middle, class jobs.
Right.
Like part-time jobs.
Was your dad and mom in the tobacco industry there?
My grandparents were.
Okay.
My dad, another, small town gig. He sells auto parts.
Yeah.
My dad started off working for Napa back in '72, and still works for GM selling parts. He works for AC Delco now, actually.
Yeah, but pretty early on, it became clear that you're seventh generation from Reidsville.
Yeah,
and it became kind of clear pretty early on that you were academically gifted in some ways. You went to some of these kind of recruitment programs from places like Duke that want to find talented kids from different areas. You end up becoming the first in your family to go to college. What were the expectations like for you?
It was weird because my dad dropped out of high school. My mom graduated high school and did some tech courses at the community college. But in the 7th grade, Duke University, the TIP program, the Talent Identification Program, contacted my parents and said, We've looked at your kid's test scores. We think he should start pursuing academics.
Yeah.
And so I went to Duke for 2 summers, 7th grade and 8th grade, and it was kind of like a summer camp for smart kids.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was like they basically give you these, what do you want to explore? And for me, it was law, debate.
Yeah.
Like oral presentation, which is
You're kidding me.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
It was something that I was really into. 7th and 8th grade kind of set the tone. My parents gave me the speech because I was one of those kids that I was, I guess, labeled academically gifted, but I was still I wanted to be the funny kid. I wanted to be loud and obnoxious, and being smart wasn't cool.
No.
And so, I made C's and D's in all the gifted classes. And the teachers told my parents, like, we don't know what's going on. He's taking the test really well, but he refuses to do homework. He acts up in class.
Right.
That's why his grades are bad. So my parents basically sat me down and said, if you want any kind of success in life, you have to get out of Reidsville.
Wow.
And they said, anything you do, they're like, we didn't tell you this before because, parents don't tell their kids this. Nothing you have done up to now matters. They're like, everything you do in high school matters.
Okay.
And they're like, so anything you do in high school, good or bad, is on a transcript. And they explained to me that, like, those 4 years of high school were extremely important of me getting out of Reidsville. They verbatim use those words, if you ever want to get out of this town.
So it's interesting. So your parents, they kind of saw the writing on the wall as far as the success of that town, and they wanted you to get out. They didn't want you to stay behind.
For sure. I don't think my parents really wanted to be there. I think my parents early on got married, and like a lot of kids who get married early, with kind of blue-collar jobs, they had kids. And once you have kids, it was an anchor. I look at me and my brother as an anchor for my parents. They could have went to a bigger – we were close to Greensboro, Winston-Salem.
Right.
I could see my parents living in more of a, metropolitan area like that. Not a huge city, but like a city with like a downtown and culture. Reidsville didn't have a lot of that. I didn't – when I moved to Raleigh in 2002, and I had no idea that you could be a musician. Like there was people who played their guitar on their back porch, and then like Tim McGraw. There was
nothing in between.
There was no middle ground there.
That's funny.
And so for me, because I didn't know that there was clubs that would hire independent musicians to play original songs, it blew my mind. So when I moved to Raleigh and found out that like they'll pay you $100 in a beer tab just to get up there and play for an hour.
Yeah,
cool. But like I would have never found that if I hadn't got out of Reidsville. And my parents knew that I was, I guess, wanted something bigger than to sell auto parts or be a farmer. I enjoyed academics, and so I really focused in on that for 4 years in high school, and did well. I got a full ride to NC State University.
Yeah, you're student body president.
I was student body president, man. Yeah. And went to NC State, and then I got bit by the bug, man.
Of writing
songs and playing songs.
So when you went to NC State at first, you were considering going into a career of law, but also political science. So I would have to imagine law and maybe a career in politics eventually.
Eventually, yeah. That was definitely what I wanted to do.
So what happened?
Music, man. I was a history political science major with a focus on law.
Okay.
So I was going to get my degree in political science and history and then go to law school.
Right.
And then become a lawyer and then wait 8 to 10 years and really go into politics.
Yeah.
That was like my ultimate goal was on a local level, then on a state level.
Right.
I had it all mapped out since I've been it was weird, since I've been in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And then I started writing songs and playing songs, and I got bit by the bug
apparently pretty intensely. I mean, if you have a plan from when you're in 7th and 8th grade kind of out, and you had achieved so much of that, to take a left turn at that point, I mean, it must have been what struck such a deep chord with you? Was it someone else's music? Was it stuff that you were writing yourself?
The only thing I can describe it as is finding your place. Mm-hmm. Finding something that you were good at, and that other people told you mattered. It was one of those things. It's like when you think about law and you think about politics, it's such a gigantic thing. And you're just one piece of a gigantic puzzle. Like music, you can write your own songs, you can play your own songs, and what you create is what you have, and it's hands on. It's a one man thing. Yes. And I don't know. As I remember my first show at the brewery, I played the brewery in Raleigh. R.I.P. It no longer exists. But I told everybody in my classes that my band was playing, and we sold out the brewery the very first show, and to have like 200 people, they didn't care. They were there to drink cold beer and whatever. But I got bit by that, man. Getting up in front of people, and I'd always been good at speaking in front of people, but being able to talk about like feelings and telling stories in front of people, and actually having people come up to me afterwards and say, that one was really good. Most of them were terrible, but that one was like really good. And then you just want to make more of the really good ones. Yeah. And so
But that takes a long time.
It's a craft, man. I try to explain it to people. It's like cabinet makers. Like I would love to see a professional cabinet maker if they would be willing to show you the first set of cabinets they ever made.
That's funny. You never see it.
You would they would never. They'd probably burn them. They'd probably set them on fire and was like, no.
Either that, or they're working with someone who's such a master that they're not allowed to make their own cabinets for the first 10 years. They're copying something.
For sure. There's not really too many songwriting apprenticeships.
No.
Where you can like follow Guy Clark around for 10 years and be like, God. He's like, now you're ready. Now
you're ready.
Try to do it yourself.
You made a good salary for 10 years, and now you're ready.
You know, it's one of those things where you have to write 100 shitty songs before there's one that like is universally like will resonate with everybody. You know, and then their some people that write songs their entire life that are god awful.
Yeah.
You know, and it's you know for me it was a challenge, and I've always loved those challenges. I've always loved this isn't good enough. Can you do it better? Hell yeah, I can. Give me a couple of days and I'll rewrite this and it'll be better.
Definitely.
And songwriting's that way for me. It's learning like, you know, the canon of the English language. You have so many words to choose, and it's learning how to simplify all these words into 2 choruses, 2 verses, a bridge, and tell these very complex stories and these very complex ideas in very simple words. That's the challenge for me is how simple can I make it to where everybody can understand it?
Yeah.
But then also tell like these really kind of unreal complex stories and express complex emotions.
That's the classic Woody Guthrie thing of any fool can make something complicated. It takes a genius to make something simple.
Exactly.
And that really, that is that's a tough. That is the whole game right there. What was the reaction of your family and the people around you when you took this left turn? Was it supportive?
Don't do it. You're an idiot.
Yeah. Don't
call us when you hit rock bottom. You're smarter than this.
Yeah.
You know, I was the first kid in my family to go to college.
Right.
So my parents looked at it as here's this kid with a ride, and he's just going to stop doing it so he can be a rock star. Like, you know, like you're an idiot. Like, don't. And it wasn't because they doubted me. It was just it was like you said, it was a severe left turn.
Yeah.
And they were worried about me. It wasn't like we don't believe in you. It was this could go horribly wrong. Like, there's plenty of dudes, troubadours, that are still playing in front of 5 people every night for a bar tab, and the only thing they've got over 25 years is like cirrhosis.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Yeah.
This could end horribly, son. And, you know, they saw how serious I was about it and that I wasn't going to back down. And that I went at it... And I was terrible. When I first started writing songs, they were bad. They were really bad.
Yeah.
But I've got to drive, and that's one thing I'll always say is there's going to be a lot of people that outwrite me, outsing me, outplay me, but I'll outwork just about anybody.
Yeah,
you know. And
was there a certain point with your folks and everybody when they kind of realized that, like, oh, this isn't just some youthful passing phase. This is his job. This is his calling.
I've done this for 11 years now, and my parents have been to 5 shows in 11 years. And my dad came to a show almost 3 years ago. It was February 2014. February 2014. 2 sold-out nights at the Lincoln Theater in Raleigh.
The road trip.
The road trip to Raleigh. It was where it first started. It was the first road trip. My dad came. I had them seats up in the balcony, like reserved off. And, and my dad came because I begged him. I was like, please come.
This is it.
This is going to be a really cool. It was the Wolves CD release stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, please come to these shows. And so they came, and I did it upright. Like, I had my manager up there, like, making sure they had drinks, making sure they were good. And then they watched it. They watched, 1,200 kids sing every song.
Interacting.
Like, singing them back to me. And then my dad came up to me after the show. It was a very, very simple exchange, but it was like, I'll never forget it. He looked at me like, glassy-eyed. He looked at me and he said, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I understand why this is what you wanted to do. Like, just what I saw, people interacting with you and you interacting with people, this is what you're good at. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. There's no question. And since then, my parents, they comment on every Facebook post. Like, that's my boy. If you see my parents in public, they're wearing, like, an American Aquarium shirt. They're super proud.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things. And they're even more proud because not only is their son, successful, their son is successful doing something that he set his mind to. And, like, I use my parents' work ethic in a completely different way than they thought I was going to use it. My parents, they bust ass every day, and they're never going to retire.
Yeah.
My parents will work until the day they die.
Yeah.
And so I took that work ethic, and I think there's something that this indescribable thing, like a parent wants their kid to not worry, but also wants them to work hard for whatever they decide to set their mind to. And I think that's what my dad's at now. He's like, I did something right. Like, I taught him perseverance.
This is the thing that worked out. Yeah, the close parts of my family, my nuclear families, have always been very supportive of what I do. I had some extended family members that just didn't get it, and like without fail, they would always come to the shows that were just like the shittiest, like a stick PA in the corner of the bar, and you're like, you don't get it. Like, I just happen to be in this place in Ohio right now where no one comes on a Sunday night. Like, and so at least you were smart enough to get your folks to like the.
Oh yeah, I definitely didn't ask them to come to Bob's Bar and see us play in front of 20 people in Akron.
No.
But
I've made that mistake.
But it's funny because a lot of the boys, like I'll never forget Whit, our pedal steel player. His parents, the first show they ever came to was Memphis, Tennessee, and we were. I can't even remember the name of this place. It was so
High Tone.
No, okay. It was Murphy's Irish Pub. I think
great.
It was
perfect.
It was a place that they told us that if we wanted to make money, we had to run the door. And so Whit's parents came into town and they were like, "Oh, so this is what our son's doing now. Our son
is a carny."
Yeah, but I guess they saw the social media and they saw that we were doing well,
right?
And so they were like, "We're going to come to a show," and they came and they were like literally the only people in the crowd. And so afterwards, it's like those are the type of shows where your family's like, "What the hell are you doing with your life?
This is a problem."
Why is this every night? And then you're like, "No," and they're like, "You can tell us. You're in a safe place. Yes. You can be honest.
I know.
Are they holding you against your will?"
I know.
And it's one of those things. And we've had family all over. It's like they decide to come to the worst shows. It's like the night before was sold out, the night after was sold out, but then they come on the Tuesday night that 5 people are there to see you in some tertiary market in a state you've never been to. And that's the disheartening part. But luckily, my parents have seen me in really good settings.
Yeah.
They've seen me play some really cool shows.
Just as Detroit in the 60s had Motown, just as Washington, D.C. in the 80s had hardcore, so today, Texas and Oklahoma have red dirt music. The sound is a mix of southern rock, vintage country, populist folk, and just a touch of West Texas transcendental cowboy. Like soul music or hardcore, though, it's more than just a particular sound. It's a whole network of independent radio stations, promoters, clubs, and festivals that exist outside of the music business's traditional power structure. The scene's mother church is Cain's Ballroom, a cavernous old structure on the edge of Tulsa that looks like the inside of a Catholic school gymnasium. In the 30s, it was home base to Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys and was then known as the Carnegie Hall of Western Swing. Red Dirt bands routinely play to thousands of people on their circuit, a base of listenership that allows them to thumb their nose at Music Row and remain independent. The old guard of the scene includes Stoney LaRue, Randy Rogers Band, and Cross Canadian Ragweed. But today, there's a new generation taking the reins, which includes Jason Boland and the Stragglers, the Turnpike Troubadours, and yes, all the way from North Carolina, somehow, American Aquarium. When the band was on the ropes, they found a kindred listenership in the red dirt scene that helped them stay on their feet. A band that had always been fiercely independent found a community that valued more than anything fierce independence. So, one of the things that really changed the trajectory of your songwriting career and American Aquarium's, the band's career, when you put out Burn, Flicker, and Die a couple years ago, it was going to be your last record. Obviously, things have taken a left turn since then, and it's a lot different now, and things are looking great. But one of the things that really helped you guys when to continue on and find a new audience is not an audience in North Carolina at all at first, but an audience in Texas.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you to, for people who aren't familiar with it, can you kind of describe this Texas red dirt music scene that you guys have become an integral part of?
Texas, before Burn, Flicker, Die, Texas was Houston, Austin, DFW area on our way to California.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 stops to get through an enormous state that we did absolutely horrific in.
Sure.
I recall one time we played in Houston, Texas, at this place called Dan Electro.
Mm-hmm.
And we got there, and the only person in the crowd was Ryan, our guitar player's girlfriend at the time, and the bartender and the sound guy.
Woo!
The only people. And we played 2 songs, and he came up to us, and he was like, if I give y'all a case of PBR, will you stop playing so I can go home?
Fuck, man.
And I was like, oh, well, Texas is never going to take off. On to Arizona, you know. It's one of those things. And Austin was never really good for us. DFW, it was always 10 people, the same 10 people. I think we were related to 5 of them.
Right.
It was just bad. And then we put out Burn, Flicker, Die, and somehow a couple radio stations in Texas started playing Lonely and Easy off of Burn, Flicker, Die. And then we got an agent who kind of, most of his bands were in Texas. John Folk over at Red 11 Music out of Nashville. He books a lot of bands in that Texas red dirt scene. And he told us, like, yeah, I'm going to send y'all to Texas a lot. He's like, I've got a lot of friends in Texas, and we know a lot of bands in Texas that will kind of dig what y'all are doing. And we were like, man, it's not going to work.
Right.
Like, Texas is a very nationalistic place.
Yeah.
And if you're not from Texas, you know, screw you. You know, you ain't from Texas. You don't know anything about country music. And so we were very skeptical. We were like, man, this is going to crash and burn. Our agent's going to fire us because we're not doing well in the markets he thinks we're going to do well in. And then we went on tour with some really just big bands in this kind of red dirt scene, like Jason Boland and the Stragglers, Turnpike Troubadours, Randy Rogers Band. These bands that, like, outside of Texas, maybe not a lot of people have heard of, but in the state of Texas, that they're heroes. They're selling out 3,000 and 4,000 person amphitheaters every night.
Yeah, I mean, they're stars.
They're celebrities.
Yes.
And they took us on the road, and the only thing I can equate it to is like being the nerdy kid trying to get into a fraternity party.
Yeah.
And then just telling you no at the door, and then like the cool kid coming out and saying, "Oh no, he's with us." Like,
right.
It's cool. And once you get into the party, it's fun.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was there's so many bands that want to be a part of it. Great bands, but it's just like they don't fit in. It's like they don't know the right people. It's like we were very fortunate to have like luminaries of this genre.
Yeah.
Just bring us in and be like, hey, play in front of our 7,000 fans.
Yeah, but just because you get to play in front of the 7,000 fans doesn't mean that you'll make a connection with. I think what's really interesting about that scene is it's a regional scene of just, you know, it is a ton of like college kids that are drinking beer and having a good time, but that actually give a shit about like the quality of the songs. Which is really bizarre.
I can't explain it to people.
Yeah, like they really do care. It does matter to them.
Like rednecks, frat boys, punk kids.
Yeah.
Like literally all coming. And yeah, they're drunk and they're drinking beer.
Yeah.
But they love Townes Van Zandt. They love Guy Clark. And it's like they want to hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
And it's anywhere else in the country, if you play in front of a drunk crowd, they're not listening.
No.
In Texas, they're listening to what you're saying. They're singing along to it. Like they love songs. And I've tried to explain to people, Texas, there's nowhere else in the country like Texas. Like in North Carolina, the question every weekend is, are you going to go to a show? In the state of Texas, it's what show are you going to?
Right.
You know, and they'll support it 7 nights a week. We've played, you know, Denton, Texas on a Tuesday and sold out Dan Silverleaf.
Yeah.
And it's like, in Tuesday, I couldn't tell our diehard fans in Raleigh to come out and see us on a Tuesday.
It's just a different.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
Like Fridays and Saturdays are live music. Everything else is, you know, I got to work, man. I got kids.
Totally.
And in Texas, they'll bring the kids and put them up on their shoulders with headphones on and be like, it was either find a babysitter or not see your show, and I ain't missing the show.
Yeah.
And you know, they're holding the kid, and it's the greatest thing. And it was a real blessing for the band because it gave us life.
Yes.
It re-inspired us because when Burn, Flicker, Die came out, we were at that point in time, we'd been touring for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
We were miserable. You know, we were still sleeping on floors, playing in front of 10 people every night, playing for $100 in beer.
Yeah.
None of us had steady relationships. All of our credit was shot.
Yeah.
You know, we were just tired. There's so many bands that were at our point and they stop.
Yeah.
And we were at that point. We were at the point where like, we're going to put this, we had 10 songs.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's just record them. And then we'll see where it goes, and we'll tour in a couple months, and if nothing changes, like
call it good.
We tried.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like we're not suckers. Like we really gave it a good shot. We put out 6 records, and it wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
And we can all part ways knowing that we gave it a shot.
Totally.
And we did it, and luckily for us, I think the person we did it with was the game changer.
Totally.
I'm not giving all the credit, but a lot of the credit deserves that. You know, we went down to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, with at that point in time was just a friend of ours who was a struggling musician himself, Jason Isbell.
Yeah.
And, he was fresh off the Truckers. He was putting out great solo records, but just was kind of at that rut too, where he was playing 300 or 400 people every night and not really getting past it.
Yeah.
He wasn't like celebrity Jason Isbell. He was troubadour, working hard, living hard Jason Isbell.
Yeah.
And, he joked for years about recording a record for us. And one night we were sitting, I'll never forget, we were in Tiernanog in downtown Raleigh having beers. And he was like, when are you going to let me do a record of yours? And I was like, man, you got the next one if you want it. I was like, it's going to be the last one.
Yeah.
And so we went down to Muscle Shoals for a couple weeks and we recorded Burn, Flicker, Die. And looking back, that's every band that's at our level now has that turning point. Like you can look back and say, that's where our luck changed.
Yes.
And Burn, Flicker, Die was where our luck changed because it was my best set of songs up until that point. Mm-hmm. We recorded it with somebody that was a friend, but also just a talented dude.
Well, yeah,
and then,
definitely.
6 months after Burn, Flicker, Die comes out, Southeastern comes out.
Right.
And then, the rocket ship ignited and took off. We played with him the first 2 days it was out. So the Friday it came out, we were in St. Louis, Missouri with him at Off-Broadway.
Yeah.
And that night I knew something was different.
Yeah.
Because I guess they hadn't sold out Off-Broadway, and then when we got there, it was sold out in advance.
Yeah.
And the next night we were in Kansas City, and it was sold out.
Yeah.
And that was the last time we played with Jason.
Yeah.
Other than festivals, it was
totally.
Now it's like, John Prine's opening up for Jason Isbell.
Yeah. What was the effect, what was his contribution to that album as a producer? Was he most effective as an instrumentalist, kind of pushing you guys in directions, or as a writer on you to make you edit more?
He was great with me. The biggest obstacle for me he offered to work with us. We were drinking. Mm-hmm. He offered to work with us. And then when I called him and said, hey, we want you to do the record, he said, just send me the songs. If I like the songs, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. So in my head, here's Jason Isbell, one of my favorite writers. Yeah. Arguably, now nobody will argue with me, but at that point, arguably, weren't going to be one of the great writers of our generation. Yeah. And he's telling me, whether or not I work on this last record of yours depends on if the songs are good. It's like, oh, shit. And I remember having conversations with the boys, I just recorded these songs on my iPhone. Should I send them to him? It's like, yeah, send them to him. Yeah. Send them to him. 30 minutes later, he's like, yeah, I'm in. Let's book the studio time. And it's like, okay, the songs are good enough for him to be a part of it. And once we got in the studio, he was really great at being like, y'all are a band. Just play the songs. Get in there, play. And he was really great because being an accomplished musician like he is, if there was a slide part, if there was a piano part that he heard in his head, he would just go in the studio and play it. Mm-hmm. So some of those piano parts, some of that slide guitar stuff you're hearing, all the background vocals are Jason Isbell. Yeah. So I might be one of the only people in the history of recorded music to be like, yeah, Jason sang all the background vocals on this record. And it was a really cool thing because looking back, it is what makes it cool. At the time, it was just friends, drinking, playing music, recording songs. It was another day for us because it was like, this record's not going to take it. It's going to do exactly what the other records did.
No expectations.
No expectations.
What is it about no expectations creatively? What is that?
I have no idea because I've heard this story play out on a million different times. Like, oh, yeah, that record that did good was the one we didn't give a shit about.
Yeah, and then the opposite story that you don't hear too much about, but which happens far more commonly, is we thought about this for a really long time. We had a lot of eggs in this basket, and then it just kind of died a very long, quiet, slow death because no one gave a fuck about it. You know?
It's a weird thing because I think that when everybody doesn't give a shit about it, they're comfortable and they're willing to sling things against the wall and see what sticks. Right. When you're really trying to break down everything note by note, lyric by lyric, and you start overthinking it, it's the same thing like Major League pitchers say. It's like, when I go out there and I think about oh, this is Game 7 of the World Series, that fucks with you. Yeah. But if you just go out there and you're like, I've been doing this for 20 years, I'm gonna go out here and throw
If it
strikes.
doesn't work, it doesn't
work. It doesn't work. If you don't give a shit about it, I think there's something really neat about it. And our last couple of records that we've made, Wolves and then my solo record Rockingham, very kind of let's go in here, have fun, try.
There's something about giving a shit on a macro level, but not giving a shit on a micro level.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Of I want this to work. I want this to be the best. But night to night, I'm going to try some things in the show tonight because this doesn't have to be the best show I've ever done. In fact, it could be the worst show I've ever done.
Exactly.
Let's get weird.
That's where some of our best stuff came from, is just taking chances.
Yeah.
And Jason kind of was the first person that was kind of just, y'all go in there and play. Like, I've seen y'all play before. Y'all can do this.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. Go in there and play the songs like you play them. And then when we started doing Wolves and Rockingham, Brad Cook, he produced both of those records. And Brad was like the ultimate, you know, dad patting you on the back, being like, you guys are a great band. Believe in yourself. Focus in. Play the tunes. You know, he's like we joke and we call him like our spiritual advisor. You know? I don't think I'll ever make a record without him just standing in the back of even if he doesn't say a word, just having like a Yoda-esque presence, just being like, you've got this. Y'all are don't overthink it. Just play songs.
You got it.
Yeah, it's that, and I think that's Jason kind of started that trend of just cutting us, because we had guys that gave us direction and kind of tried to note for note it and try to, you know, I think this is the tone you're going for, blah blah, and Jason was just like, no, go plug in and play the songs.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to feel.
Can't imagine two skill sets that have less in common than that of a songwriter and that of a band leader. A good songwriter, I think, tends to be private, whimsical, and autocratic. A good band leader is outgoing, predictable, and democratic. And yet, in today's music economy more than ever, songwriters often have to wear both hats to make a living. Some deal with it differently than others. Howlin' Wolf apparently not only paid his band well, he even provided them with health insurance, ensuring him his pick of the best available talent. James Brown took a different motivational tact. He was famous for instituting a detailed system of fines for band members committing on-stage gaffes. A missed note or a fumbled cue would elicit 5 or 10 fingers from Brown mid-dance step to indicate the amount of the fine. It's said that when Bruce Springsteen dissolved the E Street Band in the late 80s, he provided severance pay without any legal compulsion to do so of $2 million per member. I guess there's quite a varied spectrum of ways to do it, but none of them are easy. BJ has written half a dozen records and also kept a band working with a relatively stable lineup for over a decade. He's one of the very few who can wear both hats with style. What to you is the biggest quality that a band leader can possess to lead people?
Having someone that even, especially business-wise, like the band, I don't say business, I mean just show-wise, that they can come to and say, we have a problem, what do we do? And being able to offer some kind of solution. I think that's the most important thing about being a band leader is them trusting that you're going to figure it out. I'm in good hands. You know, it's on the road. I'm not only I'm a chaperone. I'm a friend. I'm the guy that they trust. To make a living. You know, I'm the guy they trust. Literally, these guys have been trusted their entire 20s and into our 30s now, like blindly. Like most of these guys joined the band when we were in we weren't making any money. We would go on 2-month tours, and at the end of a 2-month tour, I'd give them all $200 because that was what was in the kitty.
What was left?
And we'd split it 6 ways and be like, I wish there were more. You know, next tour's gonna be good. Next tour's gonna be so much better. I've got, you know, and I'm still do that. I still to this day I'm like, anytime there's a bad show, like, and it's built into my DNA. I'm like, I know this is rough, but like 2 nights from now, like pre-sale's already at 200. Like it's gonna be all like, it's trying to keep the glass always half full, even when it's well below half empty.
But that's the scary part about show business is I don't feel like there's ever a level that you hit where you're never going to have to not be that leader. Do you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
I
for
feel
sure.
like even if
Hayes said it best, man. Like this line of work, no one retires. You know,
That's it, man.
It's one of those things where like so many people know that okay, I have to keep my engine running for 20 years, 30 years, and then I get to retire and never think about it.
Yeah.
Like I will literally do this until my hands don't work or my voice, and even when my hands start working, another guitar player.
Right.
I'll have 4 fucking guitar players, and I'll be singing into a microphone.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where that's a scary thing, and it's also scary because like this year was really great for the band, but like next year might be terrible. Or we might put out another record and lose half our fan base, and it's the one line of work where like you could put all the work in the world into it, and then like literally people's tastes change, people have kids, and the new fan base doesn't grow into your band, and then your old fan base stops coming to shows, and then you're screwed.
Very risky.
It's a super, and it never is not risky.
Yeah.
Even the greats, you know.
Yeah.
Springsteen had a lull.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash had a lull where they're on top of the world, and then in the 90s, you know,
nothing happened.
Johnny Cash was playing like chili cook-offs and state fairs.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever they'd pay him just so he could survive.
Yeah.
And, you know, same way with Springsteen. Springsteen was, you know, put out some of those solo records, and it wasn't the same thing as the E Street Band. And, like, he fell from relevance. You got to think, you know, 86, that dude's selling out, you know, Soldier Field 5 nights in a row, and then he's going to play in small theaters on the Ghost of Tom Joad tour. And it's like, and then
crazy.
Now when you think of Springsteen playing in, like, a tiny club, you're like, that's not possible. Like, he's Springsteen.
Yeah, or like Levon Helm. I'm pretty sure it was in his. I don't know if this was in his autobiography or if I read an interview with his daughter, Amy Helm, about this. But he went from being in the band, backing up Dylan, doing the whole thing with the band, to in the '90s he was driving in a minivan with his daughter Amy to go play like performing arts centers. It would take him. That's Levon fucking Helm.
Yeah,
you know, like that's crazy.
It's scary to think like some of my favorite songwriters.
Yeah.
When you go to see them and there's 20 people there,
ah man,
and you're like, how is this possible? You've been doing this for 30 years. Like, what's going on, man?
How has your philosophy as a band leader changed since when you first started? Did you have some misconceptions that you had to write at the start, or
I knew it was going to be hard. I didn't realize how hard.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, you start a band, you put out a couple records, and then you're famous.
Yeah.
You know, that's
sure.
That's how it is.
Why not?
You know, after the sophomore slump, like, guys, we're going to be selling out theaters.
Right.
Right. And it's about realizing, you know, we're doing this the hard way. And there's plenty of people that took the easy way and they're still doing it. But a lot of people who take the easy way,
it becomes the hard way.
They find the bottom a lot quicker. You know, the quicker you get to the top, the quicker you get back to the bottom.
Yes.
And the thing that I think the band realizes, and I've realized from a very early stage, is we're doing this the very hard way. We're taking it one rung of the ladder at a time. There's a lot of people that get very fortunate and get to skip a lot of the rungs of the ladder.
Sure.
But every year, you know, it's a war of attrition for us. And we're just wanting, there's a lot of bands that are better than us. We just got to outlast them.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, we've watched a lot of great bands call it quits because of those misconceptions.
Yeah.
Of, we're a great band. We got great songs. That doesn't mean shit.
It doesn't mean
That's not a guarantee for anything.
No.
You know, there's a lot of really great bands like, yeah, we just want to make records and not tour. And I was like, good luck, buddy.
Let me know how that works out.
I was like, please tell me how that works out. And so,
let me know how your mom likes the record.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been really fun to kind of watch, because I blindly told them this and had no idea.
Right.
You know, I was just lying so I could keep a band together. You know, I was like, oh, next year's gonna be great, guys. Like, we've got everything lined up, and the band deserves just as much credit as I do, because like they were willing to like listen to me spout nonsense and follow along and trust in the fact that like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
BJ said it's gonna be good. The shows have to get better, right?
Yeah.
And they have, and it's just because literally there were moments where we would tour 3 months at a time, go home for a week, wait tables, you know, work shitty jobs, and then go right back on the road for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, in 2012, 2013, we were playing over 300 shows a year.
Well, I just want to wrap up here. I'm going to see if I can phrase this question well. Your last album was a solo one called Rockingham, which is the county where you're from, Reidsville, North Carolina, like we talked about earlier. And you mentioned at the very top that because of the job and economic situation, Reidsville is what you would refer to as Trump country now. And I think that album was a lot about how you're different from where you came from. But what I'd like to know, and what I'd like to close the interview with, is because you came from there, what makes you different from most of the other people that you meet in your line of work now? What unique perspective do you have, having come from there, on American values in American songwriting? And what are your 2 cents that you have that you think other people might not because they're not from there?
I've seen it. There's a lot of people that sing about it, and then there's people that have lived it. I've lived it. You know, I've watched my family bust their knuckles for multiple generations to die with not much more than they had coming into the world. And there's a lot of country singers now that, you know, with pretty jawlines and nice hair that sing about the struggles of America from their tour bus.
Yeah.
And they're not connected to it. I feel like growing up in Reidsville, there was a lot of bad things. It was narrow-minded. It was not a lot of culture. I was raised on some pretty shitty values, but I was also raised on some really great difference between right and wrong. You work hard for what you get. Some really great, like what we consider the American values. Mm-hmm. You know, what a lot of, you know, the Trump country considers American values, and I think they're great values. Mm-hmm. I think that I have an appreciation for every little. We talked earlier about every rung of the ladder.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate every tiny step we take forward. I don't take anything for granted. I know every rung that I've come up behind me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everyone that made me where I'm at today, and I'm going to appreciate everyone that I take. And I feel like there's some people that get it. You know, there's some guys a lot of guys that were born in the same small towns that I was born in.
Yeah.
That watched their dad work, you know, 50, 60-hour weeks to barely stay afloat, and to make sure that they were able to play music for a living.
And now they don't even have that opportunity to work those 50 or 60 hours a week to bust their hump.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's, you know, I feel very fortunate. Like, for a very long time, I was like any 18-year-old kid. I was like, fuck this town. I can't wait till I'm 18. I'm getting out.
And you did.
And I did. But now, as I go back, and I just moved to a tiny little town outside of Raleigh. This is a small tobacco farming town outside of Raleigh. So it's kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
I appreciate a lot of the small town, the sense of community,
sure,
the sense of not being near the city, about people, when you move into your house, people baking you cookies and cakes and welcome you to the neighborhood.
Sure.
Realizing that, like, good people still exist, no matter where you're at.
Yes.
And that's one thing the road has taught me, is the human spirit is still alive and well. I don't care what the media tells us about how bad people are these days and how unappreciative. For years, I relied on the kindness of strangers at shows, letting me sleep on their floor and giving me $20 for a shitty shirt that was probably going to shrink up and not fit them because it was inferior quality. You know, stuff like that, like trusting me to sleep in their house with 5 other dudes that smelled terrible and giving us a shower, waking up and cooking us breakfast. You know, giving us an extra $20 to put in the gas tank because they know how hard we work for it.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff taught me that, like, big city, little city, the human spirit's alive and well.
Yeah.
And I think coming from a small town, I was very much taught that was just how life was. People were good to each other.
Yeah.
And because growing up in Reidsville, I can say a lot of things about Reidsville I didn't want for much in Reidsville. I didn't know my parents were poor.
Yeah.
Because they never made me feel poor.
Yeah.
You know, I always had food. I never worried about us losing the house.
Right.
You know, it's like my parents always had a car to get me to school.
Yeah.
Like, my parents worked extremely hard to kind of keep that hid. Mm-hmm. You know, I know for a fact that, like, my parents probably never made more than like $35,000 a year.
Right.
But I felt like I never worried about anything.
Right.
And hats off to them, and hats off to, like, any small town America that makes their kids feel like that. And, like, that's where I'm fortunate.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like I have a leg up, because that was one thing my dad taught me. My dad taught me to work hard for what you want.
Yeah.
And keep your head down, mouth shut, move forward.
Well, I think you know, that's where you came from, and now you're a guy who's traveled the world, a guy that will read, you know, like a Ta-Nehisi Coates book and reflect on our country. I think you're in a really unique position to speak to an uncommonly broad swath of people going forward with your songs, and I love your songs, and I hope you take that opportunity, man.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sitting down, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
Cool.
For sure.
Great. That's our show for this month. Thank you for listening. BJ's latest album is Rockingham, available everywhere digital music is sold or streamed. Today's episode was taped by Whit Wright and Ryan Johnson. It was engineered and mixed by Matt Schusler. Research and editorial direction was provided by the intrepid and thorough Paul Barbagallo. If before we meet again, you sit down to write, please remember, an expensive pair of jeans is not a song, a compelling Instagram account is not a song, and most importantly, reverb is not a song. So, let all that take care of itself, and for you, just keep your eye on the song.